Good evening, friends. Welcome to Bridgerton. I almost said Bridgerton. Welcome to Bingerton. I am Beth, and this is the Cool Table. And I'm so glad that you guys are here. We are talking tonight about Bridgerton Season 2, Episode 6, The Choice. And I don't like that title. I just want to call it the wedding episode. And I think that's the Outlander former fan in me who was like, the wedding episode's called The Wedding. So convenient. But this is called The Choice. Hello, Michelle. Hello, Brett and Rach and Sheila and Shelly. Always Sheila and Shelly. Always right on top of each other. That's the way I like it. I like when things are the way they're supposed to be. But tonight, it's a little different because our good friend Alicia is here with us. Yay! Alicia, say hello to everyone.
Hi, I'm Alicia. I have water to drink, so I'm so fun.
That's okay. I just swallowed too loudly for my glass of wine. I'm actually drinking a really shitty bottle of Cab Sav, I believe, or maybe a Malbec called Outlander. And I bought it for when we did hang Outlander the other day. And I was going to talk about how bad it was, and it literally gave me a migraine. So Outlander's always treating me bad, but I opened it, so I figured I might as well finish it. Andy, say hello.
Hi, I am drinking. First, I have this tangerine LaCroix, sorry. And then when I finish that one, I've got this raz cranberry flavor, which I love.
That's my favorite one.
I've never tried it, and I very much enjoy it. I have to say, my Facebook has been giving me all these ads for, like, Tanqueray has all these, like, gin, like, flavors of gin. There's, like, an orange blossom one and another one. And they're like all these cocktail recipes, and I was going to go out today to buy some of the Tanqueray, and I didn't. And you'll forgive me for a moment. Someone else in my house wants a taste of the raz cranberry, so I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. I think Jonathan Bailey is doing Tanqueray Bridgerton tie-in ads, which is, I haven't really watched any of them. They've come across my Instagram feed, and I'm just kind of like, meh. But
I haven't seen them, but if he's doing them, they're bound to be perfect. So.
Yes, I'm sure they are. But yeah, raz cranberry is my favorite. Key lime is Michelle's favorite, and that is not incorrect. As long as you don't drink limoncello, we're fine. Because the limoncello one tastes like VBS lemon cookies, and it's disgusting. But all the rest of them are good. Shelly likes hibiscus.
I like that one too, Shelly.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So do I.
Yeah, but raz cran's my fave.
I haven't had that one yet. I'm going to have to try it.
That's good stuff. Better than Renee
Reggae.
doing BMW. Reggae. Reggae Jean. Reggae Jean? Reggae.
I said reggae.
The guy who plays the Duke, he's doing BMW commercials. Yeah. Oh, Emma, do not drink coconut.
Don't drink the coconut. It's disgusting.
It's the worst one. It's the worst one. I'd rather go with plain or pure or whatever the main regular one is. Ooh, Brett is putting a splash of Chambord. Is that how you say that? Chambord in my limey G&T. That sounds pretty good, actually.
I like that.
Yeah.
I love gin. So good. So British.
I don't mind gin, but I hate rum. So I have to stay away from rum. And I really should not drink tequila. I am a menace on tequila. But my sister-in-law and I are going out for margaritas this week, so I will be having some.
I'm not supposed to drink alcohol anymore because of my chronic disease diagnosis, but you know, sometimes just you gotta.
It's hard. I mean, there's good like alcohol substitutions now. Like you can make really good mocktails, feel like you're drinking alcohol, you know. I think. I don't know. I haven't tried it.
They don't get you drunk.
True. But you could feel sophisticated in a setting where you need to be drinking, I guess. I don't know. Who needs to be drinking? Nobody, except for Anthony in this particular episode. Let's talk about it. The Choice. So let's talk how this episode starts. It starts out with the Queen. And I have to say, wait a minute. Before we get started, I just wanted to say, I really wanted to thank Alicia for being here. I didn't say enough when we started, but Alicia comes to all of our discussions, almost all of them. I think all of them. And she is so participatory. And I have been wanting to have her on for such a long time. And for some reason, I just feel weird about asking people. I feel like they're not going to want to. Like they don't want to be seen. They don't want to be associated with me on the internet for the rest of time. And then today she was like, I'm getting ready. And I was like, she is rewatching this episode. I really want to talk to her face to face. And this is the first time I think we've talked face to face, isn't it?
It is.
And we've known each other for years. And I'm like verklempt about it. Like, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for coming.
I threatened my kids like I was sitting down to have tea with the actual queen. So there's nothing for you to be nervous about.
That's precious. I am not the queen, nor is Andy, but we appreciate the sentiment anyway. When I first started doing these, my kids were small, and I was like, not a word, not a word. And you keep these dogs upstairs. Anyway, but now, I don't care. They could float in, float out. It wouldn't matter. But I'm very happy you're here. Thank you for taking time out of your night to do this.
I'm here too.
Yay. So everybody say hello to Alicia in the chat. And they're very happy to see her tonight. But anyway, the queen. Why is the queen so petty? I feel like season 1, she was just like amazing and chill. And like she had like this like desire for things to go her way. She wasn't just like petty for no reason.
I really like the way they beefed up her role, but I'm not sure I liked how they did it this season, which is just this imaginary rivalry with Lady Whistledown. I don't know. It's not my fave.
I'm confused about why the responsibility of choosing the diamond falls on the queen. And I think that that's like a big part of why she's being so extra this season. But it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, they gave her this arc of the queen is the one who picks the diamond, and then she's in charge of how the diamond season goes. But in last season, it's Lady Whistledown who called Daphne the diamond. Mm-hmm. And then Lady Whistledown was the one who like chose her trajectory. When she started talking crap about her, none of the men would come see her or whatever. And so the queen was just like under that spell. She had no interest in it at all, even though she was the one who called Daphne flawless. So it was like, that felt like a more natural progression of kind of crowning a diamond or whatever. And this one feels like it was way more, I don't know, Machiavellian, or just, I don't know, something was off about it. And then in this episode, she just feels like a petty menace. And I preferred the queen to feel honest and like the queen of the ton, and then just kind of outside of their petty squabbles. I don't know.
D. How's a lady with 15 children this bored?
And where are her children? Her children and grandchildren should be around. Yes?
This is the one, I'm sorry, because I've read a lot of Regency. So in Regency, like lore, her oldest son, the Prince Regent, is sort of a buffoon, right? Isn't he sort of like a womanizing dick? In almost every Regency, I felt like he's like a disaster.
I never think I ever see him in Regency romances.
Well, I'm reading the wrong ones, I guess.
No, I mean, I don't read that many.
The way I've seen him portrayed, like just overall.
Yeah. But, I mean, they're all kind of bonkers. Every time I read a King George, I don't know which one I'm talking about or how they differ from one another. Jesse said, I like this. I think the idea is that the queen gets more unhinged the worse the king gets. And I think that's reading into it. I feel like they're not showing that specifically, but it's a good theory. I mean, I don't think he's any worse right now than he was last season.
I think the only time they kind of showed that, and it was in this episode, was when she came into the like jewel room or whatever, and she was having that talk with Edwina, and she was talking about how true love doesn't always remain that way and all of that. So I think that's maybe kind of them trying to show it, but they're not doing a good job.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not worse. I mean, last season he throws a fit and starts throwing dishes and stuff like that. And this one he's just like, hey, don't manhandle me out of the room, which seemed kind of fine. He's the king. Like, he's probably not used to being manhandled when he's in his right mind. So that made sense. Emma said, I don't see the point of the queen character and a contrived rivalry with Whistledown anymore. It felt like it didn't matter in the scheme of everything going on and was very silly. Which brings me to like thinking forward into season 3. The issue is going to be Eloise and the queen. and Eloise and Penelope. And so there's going to be a gigantic chunk of season 3 that is nothing that we expect, understand, or have ever read in the books, because the queen doesn't exist in the books. Eloise being seen as Lady Whistledown, that all of that is not happening in any source material. So they're going to be doing more with that, and it's not going to be what we expect. And at the same time, they're writing a whole new show for the queen. And so how much of season 3 is she actually going to be in? It's going to be super convoluted. And so I'm hoping that like the Lady Whistledown Queen rivalry gets shelved for whatever is happening with Penelope and Eloise and Colin in the next season.
So do you think because they're giving her her own spin-off that she will not feature very much in Bridgerton seasons 3 and 4, like as they go forward?
I mean, I don't know what the schedule is. I mean, I know that they're filming season 3 this summer. And I don't know what the schedule is for her new show, but they've already cast some of it out. So I would assume that if they're not concurrent, they're going to be back to back in terms of filming. So maybe she'll be in season 3, but not as much in season 4. Maybe they'll bring in the Prince Regent as a character, which I think would be really good. Emily just said, I'd love to see more of the queen's kids. Her son is running the country. Like, where is he? It would be really interesting if in season 3, they're able to introduce the Prince Regent and maybe his wife, and where they're, like how they interact with the Ton. That would be interesting and different. And it would keep us from having to have the queen versus Lady Whistledown for another fucking season. Kristen said, I kept imagining that the queen used all this petty social drama to avoid dealing with the realities of her husband. It was the only way that made sense to me. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, she's obviously bored with her life, wishing it was different. So that makes sense. Maybe it's that the longer it goes on, the more the queen snaps. It's the only explanation in the shift I can think of. She's clearly not coping well. That's true. And Rachel said it'd be a shame to lose the character. I think so too. I don't want the queen to go away. But if she does, I feel like we need something in her place.
I mean,
I'm not sure that she... Go ahead, Amy.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I'm not sure that she will go away, though, because it's focusing on, like, her spinoff is focusing on the younger queen. And she's in it. They've talked about how she's in it, and, like, Lady Bridgerton's in it, and I think Lady Danbury's in it. But if it's focused on their younger selves, then that would be the primary central force in the show, right? Is those new characters who are portraying the younger versions of them.
I'm not sure that it's focusing on the younger selves. From what I understand, Shonda created the show because she likes, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on that actress's name, but she likes the woman who plays Queen Charlotte. She wanted to give her her own show. So while it'll have flashbacks, and while it will be about their courtship, it won't be just about their courtship. And it won't be primarily focused on it, from what I understand, from what I've read. I might be wrong.
I misinterpreted it then, because I read it a different way.
I mean, that's what I assume. That's what I assumed from what I read when she started talking about the quote that I read from Shonda was that she wanted a show for that character and that actress, and surrounding like how the king fell in love with her. So yeah, it'll be both. I think both past and present. Relatively past and present with the queen.
Yeah.
I'm for it. Whatever it is, I'm for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly going to watch the shit out of it. So that'll be great. But
Brett said Goldie is that actress's name.
Yeah, I think it's a fine way to start an episode, given that that's the way they've gone with it. Like, I liked it more when they were focusing on not necessarily the rivalry between the Queen and Lady Whistledown, but just the Queen trying to figure out who Lady Whistledown was. Like, that to me rang really true. Not for petty reasons, but just because she was like super curious. She wants to know who Lady Whistledown is.
Yeah.
So when she's like, oh, give this person this story and this person this story. I mean, like, obviously it's not very well thought out, because once the rumors start getting to other people, anyone could have given anyone the story.
Yeah.
But fine. She's a sleuth. So go for it, Queenie.
Yeah. Emily said that she thought that she saw some of the photos of the new spinoff on Instagram yesterday. If they're already filming that, I am very far behind. That would be very interesting.
They were doing table reads like the week after season 2 premiere.
Oh, well, then they're definitely in the midst of filming that. I didn't realize that. Brett said, the big reveal in Penn Collins' book, I'm not smart enough to figure out how they're going to play that one out on the Bridgerton TV version. Me either. I mean, as much as I like to speculate how adaptations move and like what happens, I have no idea what they're going to do with Eloise and Penelope and Colin and the Lady Whistledown reveal. It's going to be big, and I can't figure it out. Are they going to feature the Queen more to promote the spinoff season in season 3? Maybe. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So they were in Oxford filming. Thank you, Blue. I did not realize that they were already ready for that.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I knew they were doing the table reads, but I didn't know that they were like already starting the filming and
yeah. Well, table reads happen right before filming starts. It's like table reads, then rehearsal, then filming. So they're not going to do table reads and then wait. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but COVID's made everything weird. So
the Queen playing games for her own amusement made sense. The viciousness this season was different. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it made sense for me for her to still be like wanting the gossip, but I just felt like it played better in season 1 than it did in season 2. In season 2, she just seemed petty, and I thought we were supposed to like be on her side, and so I kind of wasn't. But yeah, Eloise and Penelope and Colin, especially since Eloise already knows. One of the best parts of the books was Cressida claiming it was her, and Lady Whistledown being petty and be like, "Oh no, you ain't."
That was so good.
Yeah,
it is so good that she's like, I don't care who they think it is, as long as it's not her. And you're like, yep.
Yeah. And then like, I think that could still be a part of what they do. I don't think that they're like not going to be able to have people start claiming that they're Lady Whistledown. But I don't think Lady Whistledown solved the Eloise problem. I mean, we haven't gotten to episode 8 yet, but did she solve the Eloise problem?
I think the idea was that it was so heinous. Like, why would you say that about yourself? And like completely ruin your reputation if it was actually you. Well, technically, it really could be. If Eloise was like, whatever, I don't care. But
yeah. It's going to be interesting regardless.
We were supposed to be led to believe that she just came out with that big, huge tell-all about Eloise, and so it was like obvious that it's not her.
Yeah. But that always leads into, we can just talk about Penelope, Colin, and Eloise in this episode. The issues that I find, one, Penelope and Colin's conversations are so boring. Why are they constantly talking about their purpose in life? They have these long conversations about purpose, and he's like, there's more to you than I thought. And she's like, oh yeah.
I actually made a note about that scene because they talk about all the purpose, and then he's like, Lady Crane was right about you, and does the whole, this is what she told me. And then Penelope's like looking at him with stars in her eyes, and he's like, oh, there's cake. Like,
not only that, when he says Lady Crane, like, told me about you, you care about me, you'll always have my back or whatever, that had nothing to do with what she was saying. She was talking about finding her own purpose, like being someone who has a name for herself, who has like something that's going to set her free. And he goes, Lady Crane was right about you. She's like, how? She's like, what'd she say? She's worried that Lady Crane either said something bad or whatever. And he's like, you'll always have my back. I'm like, that's not what she was talking about. Very selfish, Colin. Come on.
He is thick, man. I honestly, like, I find Benedict infinitely more attractive as a human, not even like as a person, like as a full on, like, complete human thing.
Yeah.
Benedict is way, way better. He listens.
That's because they gave Benedict so much of Colin's personality.
In the show, absolutely. I can agree with you. I think we all know how I feel about the book, Benedict. So.
Yeah. Colin was dropped as a baby. The cake thing, though, my note on that was finally Colin is talking about cake, because in the book, he is constantly wanting to eat and constantly getting cake. And they even talk about, like, in the prequel books, I don't remember tell us what that is. I can't remember. I think it's the Roguespies. He is like a toddler and he's like going out and like finding cake. So that's his thing. So that at least was like within character for him being like, I want the cake now.
Well, and Luke which one is he? Is he Luke
He's
Newton? I get him
Newton.
confused.
Mhm.
He did an interview that I read where he was talking about how that part of the character is like him in real life. So that's the part that he really identified with. So I don't understand why they don't play on that more, because it is such a big part of his personality.
And it would be very cute if like he's constantly like popping pedophores into his mouth. Like it would at least give him something to do besides occasionally have a quip. Like in the beginning of this episode when they're mirroring what's happening with the Haldi ceremony with the women, and then the three of them are playing billiards, and he gets like a couple of quips in the background in a corner, and you're just like, this kid has no personality. How can they not write three men with, I mean, they've done a great job with Anthony is very different from Benedict. Like, how is Colin not his own separate person with his own personality? That's intriguing.
Because men.
Yeah,
but do we
that's true.
think that part of that is because such a big part of Colin's story is him like figuring out who he is? Do we think that they'll carry that forward and like make something out of it?
I hope so. They can't have been hammering it in the way that they did this season without it being the theme of his arc next season. So,
But let me ask you a question. Like, he's figuring himself out. Like, can we talk about that? Because I gotta tell you, like, what is there to figure out, Colin? Like, you're a freaking dilettante. That's what you do. Like, you're rich. I can't try sweet bananas.
Okay, so as like a third son in this era, he would have to choose a profession. He would have to be a vicar or go into the Navy, or that's basically it, right? Like because you don't get a seat in the House of Lords. You're not a tenant, you're not a landlord. You're not the one who owns he gets his own, he has money from his family. But he doesn't have anything to do. He's got to choose something. And Benedict's an artist and maybe will end up doing that. But Colin does not have a profession, and he doesn't have anything that like he's focused his energy on. And from what I've read of Regency romance for the non-first sons, it's a problem. Like they just are, because they're just incredibly wealthy lazyabouts. And if they don't want to be lazy, it causes an issue,
And most of them don't want to like go into ministry or the military either. So he's trying to find a path that doesn't include those things.
Yeah.
Listen, I understand all that, but like what he ends up doing in the novel is like, okay, he already travels a lot. Like they've established that he's a traveler. And so it's like, oh, you're going to be a travel writer. Like,
Yeah,
I
didn't love that.
Buy a commission, Colin. You'd be a lot more interesting in a red uniform with some shiny gold epaulets. I'm just saying.
Well, I like that he at least found something interesting to do besides doing that. Although he'd be fine if he bought his commission. But I like what Blue said. I believe in the casting directors. Amen. I have not had an issue with casting at all. I hated
Same.
Anthony in season 1, and look where we at now. Yes. I believe in the casting directors too. I was just looking at the Bridgerton family scenes, minus Francesca, and they're all like really well suited to the characters. I mean, like even like just their looks. Like there's this one shot where Eloise and Gregory are together in the scene. They look like brother and sister. Like it just fits. I feel like things are going to be fine, but at right now, like Shelley said, TV Colin, cute like a young boy, but it may just be my young age. Like he's just like a baby. But again, Blue is right. It's not his season. I think they'll make him sexier. It's just going to take a little bit more to believe that he could be. At least Anthony in season 1 had sex appeal. You didn't like his character or his personality, but he had sex appeal. He was having sex. Colin, like we said in an earlier Bingerton, has got big virgin energy.
And that's what makes me so nervous about them doing Colin and Penelope next season and not giving them another season in between, because he has a lot of growing up to do still. It's like, I believe they'll get him there, but will it be believable?
Linda said, I don't see the chemistry between Pen and Colin. Nope. But there's not supposed to be chemistry there yet. It's an unrequited crush. So maybe it's something that's going to bloom.
Speaking of that whole aspect, can we talk about how Eloise asked Penelope if she's ever felt that way before, and Penelope's just like, nope. And Penelope is sitting here getting angry with Eloise left and right because she's lying to her and not telling her about Theo.
Well, the reason that Penelope is actually upset about Theo is not because she's lying. It's because she doesn't want her figuring out her secret. So it's a convoluted thing that she's mad about. She is not mad that Eloise, like, you know, she's not even really mad that she's seeing Theo. If it was anybody else, she would probably be excited about it. Like any teenage girl would be excited if their best friend had a crush on somebody. But all of her anger, even though she tells Eloise it's about, you know, her dangerous situation and all of that, it's really just about her own safety with Lady Whistledown. It's very selfish.
And I get that. But it's still like they have the whole blow up about how Eloise lied to her about where she was going. And you can go back even through season 1 and like count the number of times that Penelope has lied to her. And I'm like, can't you think of a better excuse?
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. That's why I think that, you know, people that are mad at Penelope at the end of this season are mad because they feel like Eloise was innocent. And at the very least being honest with Penelope, like as she moved forward in the season. And Penelope's always withholding. But Penelope is withholding the things that keep her safe. Like she cannot talk about her crush on Colin, and she cannot talk about Lady Whistledown. And Eloise is privileged. I mean, like she says in season 1, like not everybody can be a pretty Bridgerton. Eloise has, you know, Bridgerton privilege that Penelope does not have. And so like a lot of that deceit is just to protect herself from the fact that Eloise has more than she does.
Do you think it's a little disingenuous that Eloise has no idea that Penelope has a huge, very obvious crush on Colin? Like,
no, because I'm a baby. I'm the baby of my family. And my older brother, one of my friends, had a crush on him, and I refused to see it. Like when she outright told me my brother was hot, I was like, oh, shut up. What are you talking about? I don't think it's that she's oblivious. I think it's just that like that's her best friend. She doesn't want her to be hot for her brother. It's like, I'm not going to look at that.
And she does seem to be kind of oblivious when they're together. I mean, she's constantly interrupting in ways that if she had any idea that it was happening, she wouldn't. She's always just like, hey, what, would she interrupt?
Yeah. I mean, coming from a baby sister perspective, again, would she?
I don't know. I was only a baby sister for a few years, and then my brother was born. Melanie just said, oh, that's sad. I see their chemistry. Like, when you squint, you can see the Colin chemistry. But
tilt your head to the side.
Very understated. It's certainly not hot. And like I have said before, I expect their season to be equally hot. I had someone on TikTok have a great comment that I ended up replying to because I was just so happy with it, that said, we were talking about chemistry and like whether Simon and Daphne had the most or Kate and Anthony had the most. And they said, I hope we have this argument every subsequent season. And I was like, yes, this is such a great comment because it's going to be different once Colin and Benedict, and even if we get there, Gregory get married, because we're going to be looking at white men, right, inserting themselves into situations. Well, at least with Colin and Eloise, we already know who their partners are, and their partners are also white and aristocratic. You know, we've seen Colin and Penelope to this point, and like where can we see chemistry coming from those quarters when we haven't seen it to this? It's just going to be a different experience. Like it's not a new thing. Kate was a totally new character. You know, the Duke just comes bursting into their lives, but we know the Bridgertons now, and we know Sir Philip Crane, and we know Penelope. So I'm just curious, like how it's going to work in terms of chemistry moving forward.
Well, and one of my big things about them is out of all the books, Colin and Penelope have like my second favorite sex scene. So I need that to have some heat to it.
The one where he talks about the mirror.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's very good. Especially because he is, we talk about how Penelope loses weight, but in reality, like she does talk about losing like 28 pounds in a year, whatever. But she still talks about like I think they call her pleasantly plump still by the time it gets around to her book. And so in my mind's eye, reading her book, she's plus size still.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be just as sexy, if not more so, than the previous seasons, like period, like point blank, make it sexy. But even if you see the chemistry between Colin and Penelope now, it's not sexy chemistry. It's just friendly. It's fairly platonic.
The only chemistry I really see is like the moony, star-eyed teenage crush thing from Penelope. I can see it from her side, but there's nothing in return on Colin's side. And I can see that he's kind of seeing her differently, but it's like we were talking about a few minutes ago. Like he's like, oh, Lady Crane was right about you. Like he's seeing how she benefits him. But he's not seeing her.
In terms of the mirror, which I think a lot of people forget, the mirror doesn't actually come out. He just says, I want to do it in front of a mirror. And she's like, now, and he's like, later. So they don't actually do it in front of a mirror. He just
adapt.
Yes, do a mirror scene.
Yes, I need to see the mirror.
As Blue said, bring that mirror out, people. But the thing about it is, if you're going to talk about mirroring, that is what he's seeing in Penelope. He is seeing how she reflects himself back at him.
Right.
So I don't know if Julia Quinn wrote that specifically into the books but it's definitely the way that they're writing it in the show, that he is impressed with her in the ways in which she reflects him. And I think that their season should be about the ways that Penelope comes into her own, and Colin is forced to look at something that is, not just a reflection of him, and be impressed with that and fall in love with that. So hopefully that's more their arc than just him continuing to be impressed with himself. Are we going to discuss the effing wedding? Look, it's only been 30 minutes. I don't really know what you're expecting, but we have things to discuss. But yes, let's talk about it. So the wedding is this episode. The holiday ceremony is how it starts. And I didn't know anything about this, but like if you looked it up, I'm sure like how many people Googled it, like when you found out they were doing it. It is a traditional like Indian ceremony with turmeric, where they the paste is just like meant to like, I guess, symbolize fortuitousness and like good wishes, and it's medicinal. Like it also like it's like anti-inflammatory. So like when they're like rid of toxins, their skin's awesome when they get done doing it. So it's like a good, and the grooms usually do it too. It's not just a bridal thing, but it was very beautiful. I'm glad that they had it in the episode.
I just wondered why. Okay, anybody else? Why her wedding gown was white?
Yeah,
I was like, what a moment to like put her in a red gown. I would have dug that so much. I also, and this is my own ignorance, so please forgive me, I don't know why they didn't do any henna on her for a bride.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they wanted to give homage to the way that like South Indian weddings would be, but not fully go that way, because it is still supposed to be Regency England and all of that. So
yeah, but even in Regency England, her gown wouldn't have been white.
That's true. Yeah.
That was like, I was like, well, seriously, with this white gown? Like, I don't understand that. I mean, it was beautiful, but
was it? My issue wasn't that the gown was white. I didn't even pick up on that, but you're right. But mine was just like, why is it so plain? It's just so plain.
After the scene where they had even said, oh, do you think it'll be too much? Like, no, that wedding gown wasn't too much.
Lauren just said it looks like she went to David's bridal. David's bridal. And then Blue says it's meant for a modern audience. Yeah, I think that's basically it. They needed to just like make sure, nobody was like taken aback by what was going on. And that white gown's going to launch 1 million copies. It probably already has. Empire Wastes. One of the things that I noticed in the holiday ceremony is when she goes to anoint Kate, she says, "It's your turn to hold still." And then when Anthony and Kate are in the closet and he's just like, "Wait, just stay here for a second." And she doesn't. Like Kate is constantly moving forward. And then finally at the end, when they're standing there together and she's like, "I just want to wait in this moment." And I felt like it was just like such a good trajectory from the beginning of the episode where Edwina's like, "You need to hold still. Like this could be giving you what you want as an unmarried, as an unbetrothed person so that you can get the love that you deserve. You need to hold still." And Kate refuses to hold still throughout the episode. And then at the very end, she's just like, "I'm going to wait right here because when we leave, this is over and it's going to pop this bubble." I just thought it was really pretty.
And Anthony even has the line in that part of the episode where he says Edwina's smarter than both of them because she made this decision and they're both just standing still.
Yep. He's like, "We've known about this for months and haven't done anything about it." Yeah. So anyway, there's a good little through line. Whoever wrote this episode, good job. I noticed the hold still stuff. Excellent. I loved the parallel. I already talked about like the parallel between Haldy and the billiard scene, like the three of them and the three of them having like their own traditions. But Anthony, when they're like, "Let's toast to the sister," and he cannot, he like can't do it. But then when they really toast, he gulps it. Like if I'm going to toast to Kate, I am going to taste every last bit of whatever I'm putting in my mouth and think about her when I do it. It was very hot. I was very impressed.
I was impressed by the fact that Anthony was by far the drunkest out of all of them, hands down, and gets up the next morning like there is nothing at all going on. And Colin is over here about to pass out. Like, how does Anthony recover so quickly?
I think he probably didn't go to sleep. I did want to say what Michelle just said. I love that they don't cover the stretch marks on Edwina's chest. Yes. I noticed that from the beginning of the season, like just letting it go. And it was good. Rachel said, "I love how Edwina was walking down the aisle clinging to her mom. And then afterwards she walks in on her own much stronger and leaves on her own." Like Edwina actually, I know that this is like the thing is like how Edwina acts in this episode. Everybody felt like it's such a disappointment to see her be what feels like so cruel to Kate. And she seems to just take like a 180 from this sweet, naive, pliable, malleable young girl to a badass who's not going to take what she feels like she doesn't deserve. But I thought it made sense. I mean, the more I watched this episode, the more I was like, what would be more satisfying to people who, whether you like Edwina or hate her, what else would you expect of this character? What would be more satisfying?
The first watch, I was one of those people that I just did not like her. I saw her as being really childish in this episode. But watching it again today, like I can see how it's a full growth arc in that one episode. Because she does start off very childish and naive. And then it all hits her that moment that Anthony and Kate go for the bangle. And she's like, my world is falling apart.
Yeah.
And she has to pick it back up and move on from it.
I mean, yeah, what would the right reaction? I mean, look, like, I think in reflection, like maybe the next day she could say like, what else am I supposed to say? What else was Kate really honestly supposed to do after I was the one who was like, "I want him, Kate, I love him," like being so freaking annoying. But I do think that this episode, I have to say, like, this is the episode where I was like, well, actually, I think Charitra is a better actress.
Oh, yeah, she was good.
Because, it's hard to play an ingenue. I've said this before on our Bingertons. Like, there's nothing. She's had nothing except being like, I loved him. And like, oh, I just want him. Wasn't he a hero? It's hard. Ingenues always get the shit end of the stick. And so for her then to be able to finally like play that rage, I loved it.
Yeah. And this is the first time she's like getting conflict. Everything for the most part, other than Kate kind of keeping her away from Anthony, has been easy come, easy go. You would think that the Sheffield conversation would have been like this big, turning point for her. And yet she barely chastises Kate for that. She barely feels any like a pain with regard to the Sheffields. And like, as long as she gets to have Anthony, she's fine. And you can remember what it's like to be a teenage girl, and all of the things that could be going on around you tend to not register as long as you still have your boyfriend. Like, it just doesn't really, you're like, cool, but am I still going to see Mission Impossible with you this weekend? Like, that's really all that matters. And I think that that's kind of how she's meant to be. Like, as long as the wedding is moving forward, as long as he's not jilting her over the Sheffields, she doesn't care about the Sheffields. Like, she's a little mad at Kate, but she's only mad in so much as she might not get her husband at the end of it. And when he is still for her and still willing to marry her, all of her angst about that goes away. But in this, it's like there's a moment where the moment that she realizes that this is not tenable, like, it's because she's not just losing Anthony. When she talks to Anthony, she realizes that she's losing Kate too. And she makes the choice, I think, and I'm not sure like how much of an informed choice it is, but she does make a choice to kind of push Kate away because Kate has chosen to leave her instead of being honest with her about what's going on and coming to a conclusion that would benefit both of them. Like, Kate's known all this time. Edwina just found out. So I'm a lot less worried about her culpability in hurting Kate rewatching it than I was the first time. The first time I felt so bad for Kate, but I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, like, we knew that Edwina and Anthony weren't going to get married, but you didn't know how it was going to pan out. And the fact that it was panning out with so much angst and with so much anger made it like it just hurt so much. You were feeling for Kate so much in that moment, and so it made you kind of hate Edwina, but it makes sense. I think that if there'd been any less emotion to what she was doing, it would have not rung as true.
Only thing, go ahead, Andy.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and I think that we've had all of our sympathy thus far has been with Kate. Like, every time Edwina has talked about how much she wanted him and how excited she was to be marrying the Viscount, whatever, it's like a freaking knife to your heart, because like, we are following Kate on this journey of like marriage and whatever. So finally, when like Edwina finds out and is rightfully ripping into Kate for being like, why didn't you tell me? You literally love the man I'm supposed to marry. You should have freaking said something. Like, you know, it's natural to be like, oh, Kate, but she just wanted her sister to be happy. It's like, yeah, but also she was like hiding in rooms and like having like weird finger strokes with her fiance. I'd be so angry. Don't stroke his pinky. How dare you?
I mean, she didn't. I mean, it was close.
It was just a near pinky touch. Emily just said it wouldn't have made sense for her to sit back and accept it with a smile. I loved her taking them to task. It made sense in the moment, even her rude response. And I like agree. I hated it in the first time I watched it. I've said, like, the very first Bridgerton we had, I said that I was sitting on Amy's couch being like, shut up, Edwina. Shut up, Edwina. Like, I was so mad at her. But that's like the good response. Like, she was right.
I hated it the first time I watched it too. And the only thing that I had this time watching it was, why is her makeup still so flawless?
Yeah.
She's having a complete meltdown and there's not like one single streak anywhere.
Yeah. She did have perfect eyeshadow, and like her fake lashes were just perfect. But even her conversations with Anthony, the scene between Edwina and Anthony when he comes in to talk to her after she's left is so potent. Like, you could almost see an alternate universe where Charitha Chandran had been Kate. Like, almost. Like, because, you know, she originally was like, that's who she was going after, or that's who she went out for, was the Kate. And she, you know, she said in an interview, she's like, of course I couldn't be Kate. Like, look at me. I look like a 12-year-old or whatever. But you can almost see the alternate universe where they went head to head. But he is so earnestly like held back and stoic in that scene with her. And yet everything he says is wrong. But it's delivered so perfectly when he's like, of course I do. Like, he's just so particular. All of the times where he's been around Kate and he's been like, I'm a gentleman, I'm a gentleman, I'm a gentleman. It's like he's not a gentleman until that scene with Edwina, where he is poised and very much the Viscount and very much the gentleman, but yet still says all the wrong things because he won't lie to her anymore. It's so well written. and super well acted.
I think too, though, it's because Anthony's character, he can wear his mask with Edwina. He can't with Kate.
Yeah.
That's why we see the opposites there.
Yeah. Which is good. I mean, even when they're walking down the aisle, this is the other thing I wanted to say about the wedding ceremony. Like, so many people were upset that we got Edwina's wedding. We didn't get Edwina's wedding. We got Kate and Anthony's wedding. She walks down the aisle and he has groom face. He's making groom face at Kate as she walks down the aisle. Like, when Edwina walks down the aisle, he like has this fake smile on his face. So you get Kate and Anthony's wedding, even the moments where they're staring at each other with, you know, with Edwina between. And then at the very end, after Edwina has like given them this moment to be in the chapel alone, they basically do like an anti-wedding. She's telling him the reason she's going to leave, but then they kiss. It's like anti-vows. And it is their wedding. Like, he even has the vision of her with just nobody else around. Like, when he says later, like, just look at me, nobody else matters. Nobody else matters. He just sees her in a white dress in front of him. Like, we got Kate and Anthony's wedding, you know?
It was their wedding for me when she comes down the aisle and his mouth just like slowly falls open. That was the moment. I was just like, yes.
Yep. It was groom face.
Oh no, when she's behind Edwina and they like meet eyes and you're like, oh, I mean, that is some heat. That was the heat. I loved it.
He is not able to look away from her for more than like 2 seconds. And like the way that they just had the camera like fading in and out between like what he's seeing and what, you know, it's Jonathan Bailey is just beyond excellent. Like, he can't even stop. And I really honestly think that they almost cast Simone Ashley just for what her eyes do. Like, the way her eyes look when they cut to him, or when she widens her eyes, like, what did you just do? Why are you staring at me? Like, what is happening? Like, what her eyes do in those moments is also just like super excellent. And the way her eyes look, like, just, you know, rimmed in coal or whatever, like, it just is perfect.
She has a theater background too, though. I didn't know that until a few days ago.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I knew her in was Sex Education.
Yeah, I watched an interview that she did a few days ago, and she was talking about how she got into acting because she was really into music, and so then she went into musical theater and then over to acting. And that explained it, because that's how they can have such facial expressions and all that chemistry, because they have to bring it on stage.
Yeah.
When he like the priest is saying something, like Edwina is like basically talking to him and he like bends down to get her bangle. It's so good. So good.
Yeah. I mean, I was wondering before we saw the season and we knew it was going to be Edwina's wedding, and we were like, how are they going to stop this wedding? What is going to happen? Because, you know, in like book 8, Gregory stops a wedding. He comes like barreling down an aisle like, for the woman he loves. And I was like, Kate's not going to do that. Like, what are they going to do to stop this wedding? And the fact that it's Edwina who stops the wedding really is important, I think. But at the very least, like, gives us the opportunity to breathe that Kate and Anthony at least did everything that they could. But the bangle thing just like made me laugh. Like, it just, how is that the moment? Like, she had your wedding ring on a day ago or a week ago or whatever, and you didn't notice. Like, it just kills me that like him picking up the bangle was the thing.
She was in that teenage love cloud until that moment when she was like, oh, he's in love with my sister.
Yeah. I did love when she comes pulling, like when they pull out, they leave and she whirls on her. She's like, I don't want tea. And she's like, you have feelings for him. Like, it was really well delivered. And I love that Kate can't answer. And then she says, do you love him? And Kate cannot say yes or no. Really, really great. Well written for me.
Do you know what I don't love about all of the wedding? Mary.
Ugh.
Oh, yes. Oh,
yes.
The worst.
My notes are full of like, fuck you, Mary. Edwina, you're fine. Fuck you, Mary. Yes. So pissed at her. How dare she tell Kate that she has to leave and then look at her and say, you have kept so much from me. Where you been, Mary? Where you been, bitch? You know?
Yeah. That was me.
it was like all of a sudden she went from being like the mother to the evil stepmother. It's like, oh, you're not my child and my child's hurt now, so get out of my face. And it just was like a complete personality transplant for the way that they've portrayed her so far.
100%, Alicia, 100%. She like spent the whole time being like, both my daughters, oh, they're both my daughters, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, get the fuck out, because you just did my daughter wrong. Oh, I was so angry. God, she sucked.
I think
And they don't do anything to make up for it, like ever going forward. I don't see a moment where Mary was like, I shouldn't have done that to you.
I think because I don't think that it's meant to be a full personality transplant in that moment. I think it's just like, holy shit, this is what's happening. Like, my problem with Mary is that she's been so oblivious. Like, Violet is violently aware of what's happening. She looks pissed the entire ceremony. Lady Danbury's aware. Daphne is aware. Any woman with any experience is aware. And nobody has more experience with Kate than Mary. And yet she's that oblivious to what's been going on. I find that wholly unbelievable and frustrating that she can have that reaction and have been that oblivious all of this time. That's really what pisses me off. I don't feel like she's just being cruel to Kate. What made me mad is that they allowed her to be that oblivious in the way that it was written.
I had that feeling whenever she and Kate, I think it was in the episode with the Sheffields, and she and Kate were having that discussion about how the courtyard was like it was when they lived at the palace, and Kate told her that she didn't have to go through with it. And then they had that line about, we'll all be happy. And Kate was like, sure. Like, if my child responded to me that way, I would be like, you're not happy. Let's talk about this. What's going on?
Or like not having any kind of idea what it is Kate is planning or what she wants to do with her life. It seems like Mary's unaware that she's planning to go back to India. Unaware that she's, like, I know what my kids want to do insofar as they know right now, all the time, and if that plan changes, like, I'm super aware of it. So I didn't like that.
I think Mary all through the season is just completely unaware of Kate, period. Because I'm still hung up on the fact that she does the whole interaction with the Sheffields without Mary. How do you not know that your daughter wrote to another country to talk to your estranged parents?
Yeah. Yeah. Blue, this is a great insight. Lady Mary was really her mother's child. LOL. Megan just says, I saw a great TikTok about how Mary and Edwina have been so used to Kate taking care of them that they don't really think about her or her feelings or her ever wanting things. Yeah, I think that it just occurs to Edwina in this episode that everything that she has agreed to do is really Kate's dream. Like when we go back all the way a couple of episodes to like episode 3, when Eloise asks Kate, like, what's it like being a spinster? Like, you seem so happy. And Kate doesn't say, sure, being a spinster is the best. Like, I get to decide what I want to do with my life. I get to like plan my own bullshit. She's just like, it's hard. It's not what she wants. And I think that Edwina figuring out, oh, what Kate has wanted all this time is not what she's been telling us. It's actually what she's been pushing on me. That was hugely revelatory. I mean, Edwina gets a ton of emotional maturity in this episode, not just for saying like, I deserve to have what I think is right for myself, but also like the recognition that what Kate wants is not what Kate has been saying she wants. Lauren just said, Kate's been acting like the grown-up, taking care of business and parenting Edwina while Mary sits around sipping tea.
Facts.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to talk about was how Anthony looks throughout the episode. So he's super pissed at Daphne, which makes me laugh. I realized that they just needed to give more of Daphne to do, especially without Simon. But I did like the fact that she's calling Anthony out. I loved their scene. I love her saying, like, I can't believe that you think that all of this is what we want from you. Really, we're just pitying you. Like, you think that it's what we need to respect you. And really, we're just like, and his brother said the same thing. Like, when are you going to give up acting like this? But I thought their scene was really good.
That scene on this rewatch actually made me cry.
Yeah.
Because I guess I can relate to it kind of because I have an older brother that's the only male child, so he's always been kind of like it's my responsibility to take care of you all. And I could just see Daphne being like, "This is not healthy for you, but you're not going to listen to me and respect me because I'm your little sister."
Yeah. My husband actually walked in like while I was rewatching it, and he walked in on that scene, and he said, "So does Anthony have to like defer to her because of her position?" And I was like, "Yeah, kind of." Like he does have to, yeah. I mean, he does have to. I mean, like in precedence and all of that kind of stuff, yes, he would have to, she'd have to be the woman he walks into a room with or whatever. But there is like a sense of she's practically royalty, and he has to defer to her in a lot of ways. And so the fact that he doesn't like shows kind of not just the closeness of the Bridgerton family, but also like the violence of his feelings against what she's saying, I think. Emily just said those two have great sibling chemistry. That's probably not the best way to say it, but you get me. Somebody else earlier, and I can't remember who it was, said that they thought that Benedict and Eloise had better chemistry than Colin and Penelope. So you're not wrong. I mean, these people aren't really siblings. So yeah, their chemistry was pretty good, but they did have sibling chemistry. You're right.
I love their stare off whenever Anthony's at the front of the chapel and Daphne comes and sits down and they're just like glaring at each other.
Yeah. I love that Violet sees it. Violet looks pissed during the entire ceremony. She's not just mad at Lady Danbury. She's mad at Anthony. She does not look like a happy mother of the groom. And Anthony looks genuinely pissed. There's like a flash of pure anger when Edwina bails. When she says, "I need a moment," and turns, go back and look at his face. He's pissed. Like, it's good because you're just like, yes, you went to all of this trouble and she's like fucking it up. He's mad. Bitch is mad.
He does it again in the dressing room, I guess, when everyone's like, "What do you need? Is this what you need?" And Benedict's like, maybe he just needs a moment. And he turns and looks at Daphne and he's like, "That's exactly what I need."
Yeah. Like he's going to have to go be truthful with Edwina at this point, which is what he goes and does. Like that is what he goes in, like, cause that's what Daphne came in and said earlier. Like she was like, she deserves the truth. And so that's what he goes and gives her, which is what makes her decide that that's not what she wants, which is all great. But I love the Bridgerton scene after that. They all come in, they're all there except for Francesca. Always going to remind everybody that Francesca is not there for some godforsaken reason. We have Benedict like asking for the flask, and then we have what Eloise says about like marriage being a prison for women. And Colin just looks at her, he's like, "Are you always so used?" She's like, "Should I just be married and silent?" Which is great. Even Francesca and Gregory's lines, or not Francesca, Hyacinth's line, like, "That's absurd. She looked beautiful." And Violet just looking at Daphne and being like, "You're still my daughter. Like, I know what's up. Like, you're going to tell me what you know." So like, above all else, when it comes down to like why this show works, it works really well because the Bridgerton family works really well, and all of them really work well together. And the best scenes are the ones that they're all in, except for Francesca.
Poor Fran.
I wonder if it's going to be weird if we ever do get Francesca to come into the middle of everything.
It's going to be very
throw
weird.
Us out.
I mean, thankfully it works because Francesca she's the one Bridgerton who's like cool not being a Bridgerton, right? So it works in terms of the source material. But for anybody who's casually watching this show without the source material to back them up, they literally don't know she exists. So it's always just like, it's going to be weird if she ever like pops back in. I wanted to talk about the closet scene. Because it might be my least favorite Kate and Anthony scene. I get nothing out of that scene. It's just not there. There should have been more.
Okay.
There's no dialogue in that scene. He's like, "I just came back from seeing Edwina." She's like, "You can't be in here. This was my respite from you. Get out." And he's like, "You're just gonna let her ruin her life?" And she's like, "I ruined her life." He should have been on Kate's side when she says, "I'm the one who ruined her life." He should have stepped in and just said, "No, you did your duty. No, you were out here for her." Like, he should have given her something else And instead she just moves past him and he grabs her hand again. He's like, no, wait. Again, trying to get her to wait. And that's the theme of this episode for her. But I just felt like there should have been more. Not that they had to like make out. Not that there had to, I don't think that they should have, but I feel like that scene required more emotion and I didn't see it. And something from my sweater just flew up my nose. It just wasn't enough for me. They're secluded in a little cabinet. Have a whispered conversation.
I had to go back and look at my notes while you were saying that because I read that scene completely differently. I didn't need a lot of dialogue. It was all like in the way that they were touching each other and the way that they were looking at one another. It was super angsty to me. She's like, this is my refuge. You can't be in here. And then she goes to leave and he grabs her and he holds her hand and he's just like, no. And they just sit there and stare at each other for a few minutes. And then she's finally like, I can't do it, and walks away.
I think I needed more grabbiness. Like every time he's gone to grab her, every time they've touched, it's been the hands, the wrist, and I feel like if he had just grabbed her, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like in terms of a Kate and Anthony scene, I know that they're trying to build up to the kiss at the end. And I felt like there was just something missing in this scene. It just didn't have the same kind of chemistry for me. It didn't have the same kind of like longing, but at the same time, like trying to stop the longing because of the situation that they're in. Anyway, it wasn't enough for me.
And there's something about the fact that though that he has not. I think he's still thinking about scandal and reputation, and like I even though he's with Kate, I still think there's definite like pressure for it. Doesn't he tell her, you have to make sure Edwina marries me?
Yeah.
He's still lying to himself like that. I find that really frustrating that he's still like still trying to force Kate to like salvage that mess. That's kind of unfair. But
and she tells him that. She's like,
yeah.
She's wise to it now. Like, what, I'm going to go try to convince her to comply again? She's aware. I can't do that anymore. So it's like Kate and Edwina have moved past what Anthony at this point seems to not have been able to move past.
I think that's good for Anthony's character, though, because it takes Kate being in a coma that is not a real coma for him to finally be like, fuck duty. I'm gonna do the thing that makes me feel good.
And kind of the buildup of what's being said in this episode. Benedict saying, hey, when are you gonna like let your duty go by the wayside? Your duty when is that gonna go by the wayside? Are you ever gonna give it up? And Daphne telling him, like, you've thought all of this time that you've had to do all of these things and we don't even need it. And yet he's right. Like, she had to be respectable enough to marry a duke. So he had to do the things that he's done, but he finally gets to start thinking about himself, but he cannot do that until Kate and Edwina do that first. So it's good for his character because he gets to remain the Viscount who, when you think about like the Viscount who loved me, that applies to Daphne. It applies to Eloise. It applies to Colin. It applies to Violet. It applies to Hyacinth, right? He's the Viscount who loved them enough to push his needs aside. And it also applies to Edmund, right? The Viscount who loved me is the Viscount who loved Antony enough to give him the sense of responsibility and duty to be the person he should have been. So when he needs to stop doing the thing that fulfills duty, he needs other people to start doing it for him first. And that's what he gets in this episode, is Kate and Edwina finally doing that.
I think that's also why Kate's the one that goes for the kiss, because he's not going to do it.
I mean, he probably would eventually, but yeah. I do wish that, I mean, as much as I love their kiss, I always think Regency romance doesn't, the first kisses They do not end without a nipple pop. And the fact that there's not a nipple pop up the top of that corset drives me crazy. This is the only thing. This is what a bodice ripper is about. Like, you don't have to rip it, but the nipple needs to pop up the top of that empire waist. That's why they're up there in the first place. They're up there so that the nipples are right there. You know?
I think more in the that scene with the Coppola the sex scene.
Yeah.
Why did that should have been for real. You are right about that.
Yeah, but there's a progression.
Like, half corset.
There's a little progression. You know, you make out, but the nipple pop happens with the first kiss in a Regency romance. And then under the Coppola, you get a finger bang.
Well, most first kisses in Regency romance don't happen in the Queen's palace. So maybe Anthony was just like a little intimidated.
I think at this point he would be so enamored. He would need. No, nipples are not for kiss number 2B. Nipples are the first kiss. We need a little bit of compromising beyond just making out. Let's not in front of Jesus. Jesus is not real. Oh my God. Y'all are all telling me not in church. I'm an atheist now. You can do anything you want in church. And even when I was a Christian, I was doing awful things in church.
Yeah,
the
same.
time.
That's why Beth wants the nipple pop in church. She wants to relive that experience.
Yes. 1995 was a dirty year. Okay. So what else do we need to talk about? Anything else? I feel like I went through the majority of my notes. I loved Violet and Lady Nanberry in the window.
Oh, that was
Yes.
great.
I could have, honestly, in terms of deleted scenes, delete the scene with Edwina and the king.
Oh,
Yes. Why? What was the point in that?
I hated that scene.
So what? The Queen wouldn't be mad at Edwina for not going through with the wedding?
I could have dealt with, Edwina could have figured out that she wasn't going to love Anthony. He wasn't going to love her back without that scene with the Queen and without the dumb scene with the king. It just was fully unnecessary and gave Edwina this, like, it gave her this angelic thing. Like, she created love in this perfect, it just was so unnecessary and unneeded. I thought it was very overhanded. Like, I hated it. I hated it. Cut it out.
If you watch closely, when he first walks in the room, like, everyone's like, oh, it's the king, and they bow. And Edwina's just like, hi, just standing there. She doesn't move.
Yeah, she just, like, barely turns, and she's like, eh. And that scene is really bad. And the same with, like, the one with the Queen in the crown jewel scene, maybe.
I liked that. I thought that was good.
And I get that, like, all of those women witnessing something happen between the Queen and the King, producing an effect for Edwina that allows her to move forward. But I feel like that would have been more potent had the Queen been the one to be able to change his mind and get him to turn around and, get him to calm down or whatever he needed to do to move on. But Edwina doing it felt like she had an associate's in early childhood development or something. And so she knew how to talk to him. It just was so stupid. I hated it.
That was my big hang up too, because Edwina 5 seconds ago knew nothing about life.
Yeah.
And suddenly, in the space of an afternoon, she has it all figured out.
She's got it with the geriatric patients. She's all ready.
Exactly.
She's Mr. Calling. She should talk to Colin about that calling because she's clearly something there.
Yeah, she certainly went out. She got her associates in, like, dementia patients, and she knows what to do. How in the world? She would have no experience with anything like that and have any idea. It was bonkers. I hated it. What are we talking about? Kate's thumb in Anthony's mouth. That doesn't happen in this. Does it happen in this kiss? She puts her little,
I think it's in the scene.
Her little mesh gloved thumb in his mouth while they're kissing. I don't know. Maybe she does.
I didn't think so, but I could be wrong.
But I do love that the episode ends on their kiss. It gives us something to look forward to. And especially knowing that there's 2 episodes left when it's over, you're just like, cool. It's not Edwina anymore. Where is this going to go? And that's exciting. That's exciting when you turn this episode off. Like, if this had been the kind of show that you had to watch week to week, man, the week between 6 and 7 would be rough. Rough.
The first watch, I actually was going to turn it off after 6 and like save 7 and 8 for another time just so I could stretch it out. And then that happened, and it was like, nope, we're finishing it.
No, yeah, you got to finish it.
Yeah. No, we were watching, Rachel, you'll have to remind me because I forget. Rachel was with me. We were watching at Amy's, and I want to say we did end on 6 and we had to go to bed. Like we were watching in 2 episode increments, and it was late and we'd watched 6 and we were like, guys, we're going to have to watch 7 and 8 tomorrow. It's just like, no, we got to stay up. But we didn't. We watched it the next day.
I stayed up and watched it, and then I turned it off after 7 and then rewatched 6 and 7 the next day to watch 8.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I applaud that decision.
Rachel's telling me that is how it happened, and we were drunk, that's fine. But no, we did turn it off after 6. B, we did. Went to sleep and everything.
I did
That's
not.
discipline.
Apparently, it was 1 a.m. Well, it's hard when there's 4 people and you're all trying to decide what you want to do, and you've been up all day. But, yeah, it felt like we were really martyrs for our bedtime that night. Because I watched Heartstopper Friday night with my daughter, and we could not stop. She wanted to like stop in the middle and go take a shower, and I was like, "Do you not love me? Like, I can't wait 30 minutes for you to come back down the stairs. Go to bed, stinky. You're not taking a shower. We're watching Heartstopper all the way through."
What service is that on?
It's on Netflix.
I gotta find it.
I haven't been able to watch it yet because I haven't read the book, and my daughter won't let me watch it until I read the book because the book is just so good. So
well, the book will take you 20 minutes to read. It's a graphic novel. I mean, you'll get through it in 20 minutes. So if you have it, 20 minutes, then start up the show. You'll be fine.
My 17-year-old does not do romance, and she called that one cute and has told me I have to read it. And it's so good, and we can't watch the show until I do read it. So I'm like, this is high praise.
Yeah.
It's up there.
It is really very, very, very cute. I mean, we were just swooning. We were just like sitting on the couch being like, this is the best thing ever. And it's a great adaptation. Like the actors are all on point. Olivia Colman's in it, and I didn't even know she plays one of the boys' moms. And I was like, that's Olivia Colman. And my daughter was like, who is she? She was so excited. And I was like, she's like the greatest actress ever. It was just so good.
I will watch it. I also have to apologize for yawning so much, guys. It was my first day back to work after I've had a week off. So we've had our spring break, and so I went back to work this morning. I woke up at like 5:15, and I'm like, I'm not bored. I am very stimulated by this conversation. I cannot help it. So
it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
So anyway, that has been The Choice, Bridgerton episode 206. We hope that after our very specific and erudite and professional analysis that you can come away with a feeling about this episode that it is art. It is a potent like treatise on love of different sorts, familial love, sisterly love, platonic love, and erotic love. And that you come away with like good feelings, even about Edwina, who grows so much in such a short amount of time because she's facing adversity for the first time in her whole ass life.
You can hate her in the next episode. It's okay to go back to hating her next episode.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't hate Charita. She was so good in this episode.
She was super good in this episode.
I love how you just took that ingenue girl and you just turned it on its head. Yeah,
but she should have had some makeup streaks. That it should have happened.
She needed to stay beautiful, I think.
I do think she maybe could have cried once. I mean, really, like, your whole life is falling apart. I would have been a wreck.
Personally, I wanted to see Kate absolutely break down. When they show her in the closet after she throws the bangles, I wanted to see her absolutely sobbing. And instead we get this like drone shot of her above her shoulders. And I was like, that's not enough. Yeah. I wanted to be crying on her behalf. And that would only happen if I could see her crying. And the fact that we did not see her absolutely just breaking down pissed me off.
That was the one thing about the closet scene, because you didn't like the closet scene. That was the one thing. I felt like she would be a complete wreck in that moment, admitting to Anthony that she's the one who destroyed Edwina's life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Even that line, like, I'm the one who ruined her life, should have been broken down. Like, she should have been broken about the fact that she's ruined Edwina's life. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sad about that.
overriding her feelings about Anthony is the feeling for the sister, which, yeah.
Especially after Edwina has, like, pushed her away. After she's like, you're nobody's fool. Like, that is exactly what I want for you. I want your full happiness. And she's like, no, you don't. Like, I don't even, then it's not even something that I'd want you to want for me. Like, I don't want anything from you anymore. I mean, Edwina says some harsh shit. And I think that maybe it's because it's so harsh that's why we don't get Kate just kind of broken down. Cause I mean, who's gonna forgive Edwina ever if Kate is like an absolute basket case over it? But like, I feel like she could have broken down before Edwina said all the mean shit, you know?
She has more reasons than just Edwina to break down, though, because Mary is a bitch to her in that scene. So her mom, the only mom that she's had, sends her away and treats her like a complete outsider and tells her to get out.
Yeah. And I think that, like, in Kate's mind, in everybody's mind in the episode, it sucks because as audience members, we know that this episode is going to end Edwina and Anthony's story. But every single character in the episode does not know that. And that's where the tension lies. The tension is in the Queen and Danbury and Violet and Anthony and Kate and Mary, all of them wondering what the outcome is going to be, whether or not Edwina is going to go to the altar. But we know she's not. So that breaks down the stakes for us. We're just waiting for it to happen. So that's a lot of the reason why the things that Edwina says are so harsh, because without her being harsh, we don't have any tension. We don't have any reason to like keep watching. Like, it's just like, when are you going to say no? When are you going to say, I'm not going back to the altar? You know, because we know that that's happening, right? So I feel like Kate in that moment is not just mourning the fact that Edwina has potentially ruined her future, but she still doesn't know what's going to happen. Still doesn't know where she stands. But she does know, no matter what happens, whether Edwina goes with Anthony or whether she does not, she has lost her standing with Mary and Edwina, who have been her entire family for so long. And therefore, she's going to go forward without the love of those women. And so she's not just lost, she has really lost everything that mattered enough for her to be able to give up what she thought was going to happen with Anthony anyway. So it should be like a complete breakdown for her, because she's still at loose ends and still losing the thing that matters the most to her, which is the love of Edwina and her mother.
And not just their love, she gave her entire life for their lives. So she doesn't have any sense of herself outside of who she is for them.
Right. Right. And now she's lost it. Like, Edwina's not, it's just, everything is gone. And I feel like we're missing that because we're focused on, when is Edwina just going to tell Anthony no? And because we know that's coming. And so we're missing kind of the subtext of what's really happening with Kate, and the way that it's written, it doesn't kind of give us enough of that. We get more of what's happening with Edwina internally than what's happening with Kate internally, because Edwina goes through her whole process out loud with both Kate and with Anthony and with the fucking Queen. She has all these scenes where she's going through emotionally what is leading to her choice. And Kate is just like in a closet throwing bangles. I mean, what else does Kate do in this season? I mean, in this episode? Nothing.
Feel sorry for herself.
She during the kiss. she goes for that.
She gets to kiss him at the end, but like in this episode, other than her scene with Edwina and the bangle scene and a very truncated closet scene, she does not get any catharsis, even though what's happening with her is very distinct and acute, you know?
But I think that's the problem with Kate's character overall. We never really get inside of her.
Right.
Through the whole season.
Yeah, we talked about that before, like how we get so much backstory with Anthony and he gets so much time to like emotionally deal with his shit. And Kate does not get backstory. Kate does not get emotional ties to anything. And we just don't get a good sense of that she gets a chance to process anything,
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, Blue just said she was processing. Yes, but we do really see her processing, Anyway, I don't know what she's talking about. But Michelle just said, I slid off my couch. I was benumbed.
It's a very funny way to say it. She was talking about Anna Christina said that when Edwina's like half sister.
Oh, yeah. That one was just mean for the sake of being mean.
Yeah, I liked it though. I don't know. There's just something about Edwina finally starting to grow a spine or do something that other than be annoying. Like I get it. It took a long time and it's hurtful. And I see when some people complain, like I know a lot of people complain, they were like, Kate would never have done that to her sister. But I think you need to look at it more from the not hurtful angle. It's only hurtful because she got caught. You know what I mean? Like she legitimately thought that she was doing the right thing. Edwina kept on harping on the fact that she wanted the Viscount. She wanted Anthony, just no matter what, like despite the fact that Kate like tried to be like, not this one, not this one, not this one.
Right.
Like Edwina doesn't think about that. The only reason it was so hurtful was because it wasn't ultimately successful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for Kate, the self-sacrifice was, the better option. She didn't see that as hurting Edwina to give her what she wanted.
Yeah.
It's only hurtful because she got caught.
And it feels worse to us because we're very aware of everything that Edwina has said up to this point. Edwina isn't. How many conversations have you had with somebody and you remember all of the ins and outs of what you've said? So Edwina's not aware that every time she said, but I love him, that Kate was on the precipice of saying that she had feelings for him.
Mm-hmm.
She's not aware that that is even how those conversations went. So she's just processing what's happened right in this moment, not 6 episodes of, movement to this point yet. So, we have a different perspective than she does.
That actually made me think about Mary again because we talked about how oblivious she is to everything. When he goes to propose to Edwina and Kate thinks he's talking to her, how did Mary miss that?
I don't know. I mean, no one else did. Just Mary and Edwina. They're the only ones. Maybe Hyacinth.
I doubt it.
Certainly Francesca, because her ass wasn't there. But everybody else saw it. Everybody. I've had too much to drink. I just ate this and hit my microphone at the same time.
I wish I had some sour bright crawlers myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't.
I should not be eating these, honestly. Like, not good for me at all. But anywho, that was Bridgerton, episode 206. I said this 20 minutes ago, and then we started talking about something else. But I hope you stayed, and I'm glad that those of you that did. And we will see you very soon for another episode. And in a couple of weeks, I think, for a final Hang Outlander.
Listen, that episode, someone messaged me and they were like, girl, the person who wrote that episode, this past weekend's episode, wrote that bullshit hanging episode, that silent movie garbage. And I was like, you've already ruined this for me. I cannot watch this episode objectively now. And it was
the one that episode 7 that just aired was written by the silent movie person.
And it was objectively trash.
So much trash. We know how much I love the throuple. So we can just, for 5 seconds, imagine my feelings.
How they made...
Guys, we can't talk about Hang Outlander or Outlander right now because
okay.
My ass hasn't watched it. Not that I'm gonna. Not that I'm gonna. To be honest.
All right, well... We'll also...
But we will. In a couple of weeks, when the season is over, we'll have a final moratorium on that dumbass show. So anyway, good night, you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you to every last one of you that was in the chat. You guys are awesome, and we will see you very soon. Bye.